Saina, please start.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Today, if you talk about today's topic, that's quite near to my heart, empathy in action, building a bully-free world. So today, when we focus on today's world, we see that it's been very common. So let's start with the school life. What we see initially is like today only, I got a message from one of the principals. She said, you know what, my second grade students are more into bullying now. That was something really, really surprising for me, as I wasn't expecting this thing. I feel that mostly it's with mature people and when they grow up or that hormonal kick is there. But I don't know, maybe you guys can shed some light on that. So let's start. Our today's speaker, the first speaker is Shabista Bakhtiar. She's from Pakistan. She's the CEO of Learning Lab, trainer, facilitator, associate practitioner NLP, managing partner at Torque Labs. Our second speaker is from India, Uma Chandrakala. She's early years advisor, content curator, teacher trainer, parenting mentor, author, and editor. Along with that, presently, she's associated with Dibber Schools as senior content writer. That's quite an impressive one. Janabi Sharma is our third speaker for today. Her expertise include counseling psychology, psychotherapist, CBT, RBT, art therapist, trauma-informed care specialist, consultant, and school psychologist. That's quite near to my field. Let's come to our fourth speaker for today, Darcel. Darcel Washburn. She's a British governess with over a decade's experience, Montessori guide, non-medical maternity nurse, and TEFL educator. Now our very amazing, one of my favorite, I would say, the speaker, which I'm working for the second time or talking for the second time, Sue Asquith. She's the freelance early childhood consultant and published author. She worked on different projects on educational development where the focus was on the development or education. She's also regular guest speakers at the Child Care and Education Expo. She's also an author of the book. There's a long list, of course, if I'm going to talk about it, and that will take time. But I'm sure in between, you can just stop me and you can start and add on your expertise. Sue Newman is our sixth speaker. She's a managing director at Googie Miles, UK Limited, leads music workshop, again, something which is related with therapy. Presents at conference, she writes article, manage business strategies, planning, program, and the compilation along with the training. So what I see that today our platform is loaded with the different, experienced trainers and let's say the professional from different domain or areas. But basically, I think the focus is on education. Is it? All right, you can unmute yourself so we can start. For the first time, I'm going to start with first common question. This first common question will go for everyone, and you're going to share your expertise. Shabista Bakhtiar. The first common question is from you. I'm going to start from you, right? What is bullying, and do you think it is identifiable in the early childhood space? That's quite concerned. That's really concerned.
Yeah. It is concerning. It is concerning. And just to give a little bit background why I am here, I have also been an trained ECE educator for 12 years. And after that, I switched to corporate and then started Learning Lab. And I have a very diverse another business that is animation and VFX studio. So yeah, I work in quite a lot of fields. I have this artistic streak also. I paint also. So when I used to teach, it was 7-8 years ago. Since then, when I went into training and all, I have seen cases in ECE as well, early childhood classes, and it starts really early. I think it starts when a child snatch and another child's snack. It happens there, pushing up and hitting in the play area or something like that. But what I have seen over the years is that bullies themselves are victims too. There is something going on behind the camera, you can say, that is not identified. And unfortunately, that the part of world we belong, we do not have many trained teachers to identify what is actually happening with the child. So we also focus on that to equip teachers so they can actually handle such situations. And it is a fact that it happens, and I the best thing is that it should be identified ASAP, as early as possible. And the bully also should be treated. The victim is always has the empathy and sympathy of all, obviously, and he or she should. But we need to look into the facts, into the problem, into the hidden problem that the bully is facing at home or at any other place. That is why the child is behaving like that.
Thank you, Shabista. Thank you for your input. Uma, with the same question, your expertise. The question, you want me to repeat the
Yes,
question?
yes. No, Sukarna. Thank you so much. See, actually, what I feel is, yes, bullying, as we all know, as we all have found out, it's a set behavior which is not acceptable, which is something different, right? But when it comes to early childhood education, being in this field for about 22 years, okay, so it's a long year of learning for me. It's a long learning journey. So in this journey, what I have sensed is bullying is different, and then aggressive nature is different. Okay. So when it comes to early childhood, years, early years, it's always the aggressive nature that is considered to be bullying, right? There might be some aggressive nature that can change over a period of time. Maybe small things like, when the child first comes to the school, he doesn't want to share anything with other kids. Okay, so he creates a tantrums, crying, snatching. So all this behavior is considered to be bullying for the other parent, right? So there are four criterias in this: whether the behavior which is shown by the bully as well as the bullied child, okay, you need to identify whether it's causing harm for both of them, in fact. Okay, as Shabista said, Miss Bhaktiya said, like, even the bully is also a victim, right? We are not going to say only the victim is a victim. Even the bully is also a victim in some or the other way. So maybe he's showing up that such behavior. So you need to identify that. And then second criteria is whether it is done intentionally. Okay, so it might not be a repeated behavior. It might be once or twice and then it goes off. So, and then the third one is whether it's a persistent behavior, whether it's an ongoing behavior, or it happens only at certain point of time. And then the fourth criteria is a power imbalance. So as educators, as early childhood educators, if we are able to sense this on this four criteria, then I think we are helping a lot of children to overcome.
Thank you so much. So till now, it's that somehow we get the idea in early years as well, but it's not always bullying, right?
Correct.
Next, Janvi Sharma.
Yes, so I would like to start by saying that once somebody becomes a bully, we should know that it's very rarely, but yeah, we have seen that he or she was also bullied in the first place before. So if we talk about children class 1, 2, 3, they do this aggressive behavior with a sense of, doing a tit for tat. Like he did this, so I also did the same to him. But when the child goes to class 4, or gets promoted to 4, 5, so there I have noticed personally that it's a way of harming harming the persons emotionally. There was a case where a boy of class 4 or 5, he was being caught because he on the playground pulled his friends pants down, and everybody laughed and everything. So when he came to me, so definitely he was saying to me, and then he said that, ma'am, so and so ago, like it was a very while ago, when the other boy also did the same thing to him. So I asked him that it has been a long time ago, so why now? So from there we come to know that somewhere or the other, the emotional embarrassment is still there in the children when they grow up, when they they are in class 4, 5, 6. So I believe that in the early years it's a way of showing aggression, like I said, tit for tat. But I think in the childhood years, when they go from class 4, 5, 6, it's a way of harming each other's emotionally, each other's. We have an ego, so in order to feel good about ourselves, we try to harm the other person emotionally. So yeah, I think the way of coining both the terms is different in both the years, but I think ultimately the consequences, the emotional damage is more when the child from early years transforms to the later years of development. So yeah.
That's true. All right. Next to you, Dawson.
Yeah, I
You're
think
easier.
everybody, yeah, I think
Darcy.
everybody meets, yeah, hi. I feel everybody made some really valid points. And, the question is, what is bullying to me? What is bullying in the early childhood space? And, it's really about having the intentional and repetitive use of power, control, and harm to intimidate another individual, whether it be emotional, verbal, or physically. And of course, it's repeated over amount of time. I think that to understand the definition is really important, because especially in early childhood years, we need to understand what is the difference between rough and tumble, and what's the difference between the intention that a child has to really inflict pain and hurt onto another. So I think this is very important in also understanding the development of social skills in children, because I feel a lot of bullies and victims as well, they have very poor behavior because of the social skills and not being acclaimed to having these opportunities to be able to learn that. So, within the early childhood space, I think identifying bullying may involve just observing these behaviors that occur to other children. That could just be through exclusion or name calling or physical aggression, which you have touched on. And what Shabista said and Uma was about, the bully is a victim too. So having to understand how do they become into that emotional space? How did that occur? So it could be something happening within their own home, or anxiety, or even learning issues that we need to discover. It could just be through that frustration that they're taking it out on somebody else, on another child. And I had this with my charge. Yesterday I came home with a letter having been bitten on the arm by another child. So, we sat down, I said to him, he didn't mention anything to me, but when I saw the letter, I said to him, oh, did something happen at school today? And I said, yes, the boy in my class bit me. And I said to him that he really upset me, because I give him the language to support him when these moments happen, like, please don't touch me, please respect my body. So I feel as educators, we need to be able to give the children the command over the language to own that, to own their bodies, and to inform others about respecting their boundaries, which I feel it needs to be identified more in early childhood. And data showed that at least 20% of children aged between 2 and 5 have experienced physical bullying in their lifetime. And this is also through being again verbally, through verbal or emotional harm. So I think bringing this to light and having teachers have this open mind about social skills should become more imperative than, I guess, the technological side of things. So that's what I feel we should identify more in early childhood.
That was a major point. I really appreciate. I had this thing in my mind, because sometimes, different kind of learning problems or something related with that, let's say the behavior issues or hidden challenges which we don't look into it. There are the reason behind that as well. So Asquith, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm not going to go over what is bullying, because I feel everybody so far has really kind of covered it really, really well. But what I'd like to think about is obviously the bullying in context of the earlier setting. And I think especially during early childhood, so in the UK, we talk about early childhood from being from birth through to maybe 5 years old. I know sometimes internationally that goes up to 7 and 8 years old. But if we think about early childhood development and some of the things that people have talked about, you know, kind of having sharing issues with snacks and resources and toys and things like that, I think it's important to remember that some of our earlier years children, they are very egocentrical. They haven't yet kind of gone through those skills. They haven't learnt those skills yet of how to share, how to take turns. It doesn't come naturally, and all these things that we can do maybe to guide that behaviour so that they don't become that identified as that, I'm air quoting again, bully. Because I think it's unfortunate for children in the early years if they do get labelled by parents or other people's parents, etc., because of those behaviours. And I know people have said it already, but if they've got disruptions going on in their lives, if they're living with maybe domestic violence at home or emotional abuse at home, then these are the things that maybe are their lived experiences that they bring into the childcare setting in the school. And they don't really know any different. They're kind of acting out what they're used to having done to them or having heard been done to other people. So I do agree that bullying can start in early years. But if we're thinking that we're trying to teach children, for example, the difference between a red block and a blue block and a yellow block, then as soon as they start to understand that, then they're going to see the difference in skin colours, in hair colours, and in other differences in others as well. And I think it's about how we shape and guide that and embrace diversity. I think moving forward, when we talk about obviously going into primary and secondary education, that can either it can be a really useful foundation for children to understand, or it can maybe be forgotten and maybe influences by other older children, maybe bringing them down, maybe that it turns into bullying then. But I think in early childhood I would maybe not try and label children as bullies, but try and think about that behaviour like everybody else has said, really, and try and think, you know, what is this child communicating to me? What can I do to help? And some of it is early years development. It's guiding that development, I think, rather than labelling bullies. But I do agree that, you know, if children are biting or hurting other children, that parents can sometimes maybe class that child as a bully, which then we need to obviously work with maybe.
That's true. Okay, Newman, over to you.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what's been said. And like Sue, I'm looking at the early years development and the role that we can play in developing those social skills. As a music expert going into a setting, probably for 45 minutes is usually the length of our music session. So we'll be there with the teachers and the children, and, you know, we'll see very different personalities in that group. You know, there'll certainly be those children that want to push to the front and choose their instrument and maybe have a meltdown if they don't get the one they want. And then there'll be children who are quiet and shy and waiting. And I think absolutely that is partly the personality they were born with, but partly learned experience, whether that's from their home environment or the nursery environment. And, you know, as with all behaviours, it's partly learned, partly nature nurture. And we have the opportunity then in our very often 6-week course to really manage that behaviour and help them to learn how to cooperate in this group format, learning group skills, thinking of others, taking turns, waiting. And we're very lucky that music is such a powerful tool. When I speak later, I'll talk about the impact of music on the brain and how that actually helps children to develop these very important skills of thinking of others and self-regulation and empathy. But, you know, really that would be my observation, that it's in early years, it's something we can have a big impact on.
So it means that the weekend initial years are the, let's say, the real time when we can observe and set the boundaries and start with our, let's say, the evaluation process. So I agree. So now I'm going to the second round, that's our individual questions, right? I'm going to start with empathy, because I think that's the, let's say, that's something which can kill bullying, or let's say start with Aspit. Question is with you. What is empathy? give some examples of how we can say that empathy is an action.
Okay, so empathy. So it's, if you look up the dictionary definition, you'll get some words that are maybe along the lines of being able to understand other people's feelings, maybe sharing that feeling as well. But if it's almost like transporting yourself into somebody else's shoes, but how tricky is that, I think, as adults? So we're online today. There are several of us in the group with our videos running. So even though we are not together in the room, how can we as an adult try to understand what everybody else is feeling? If I asked you just now, how am I feeling about presenting to you just now, you wouldn't be able to really tell me exactly what was going on, because obviously you're not in my body understanding my feelings. So that's a really, really tricky one, isn't it? I was going to launch some kind of poll. I was thinking about that, but I can't see the people on Facebook Live, so I can't see any of the messages that might be coming through, unfortunately. But I was going to ask people in general, when do you think that children develop this skill of empathy? And I was going to kind of cast that just now so we can maybe talk about it later. But I'm thinking maybe if we do think about when do we think that comes online? Because a lot of research is showing us just now that actually it doesn't come fully online until teenage years plus. So if we are thinking about our early years children, our primary school children and our secondary education children, empathy is something that we need to support and guide children with these skills throughout, rather than it just be something that we focus on early years and we hope for the best moving forward. And I think some of the classes that children might have on relationships, personal, social health and relationships kind of classes, maybe needs teachers, like somebody said earlier, to really understand empathy and to support and guide those skills, because it doesn't come natural. It needs to be nurtured throughout early childhood and adolescence as well. If we then think about what behaviour skills might include in terms of empathy, it's active listening. And I think sometimes I'm not the greatest at active listening. I do listen, but because I do a lot of work online, sometimes there's that little bit of a delay in that communication coming through. And I think sometimes I try and answer the question quicker than I should really, because I don't really sometimes allow for that communication gap, that lag maybe that's occurring online. So we need to listen carefully. I do have a counselling skill, only level 2, so not like the people online. But we obviously get taught really about how to actively listen, how to recast that back, what to do with that as well. Maybe ask them more questions if we need to try and clarify maybe bits that we weren't really sure of, to find out more about it. Then sometimes it's about our lived experiences as adults trying to maybe help children. So for example, if you've never had a bereavement in your life, how can you then try and empathise with another person that's going through that just now? So you can sympathise with them, which is different, but you can't necessarily empathise with them. You can maybe think, oh, that must be sad, but actually, sometimes our lived experiences really help us in terms of empathy. And again, children don't have that empathetic skills. They don't have that lived experience to be able to do that as well. Also, we can pay lots of attention to non-verbal cues. And I think children are really, really good at this, actually. Babies and toddlers and young children are really good at looking at what's going on here and maybe feeling those vibes that you're emitting as well. I think that is something that they are really, really good at. It then includes some inhibitory control, which is tricky, and it's part of self-regulation. And it's not that sometimes we can't all do that all the time. So maybe just thinking about counting 10 before reacting. Sometimes staying silent is better than shooting off with something in the moment that you might regret. I often say it's, if you've nothing kind to say in that moment, try not to say anything at all. Think about it and respond later with a cooler head maybe. And it's really, really important, obviously, to do that active listening so that we're not assuming something, that we're actually supporting what's going on in that moment. So if those are empathy skills, There are a lot of kind of adult-like behaviours there, aren't there, that I've just spoken about, and we can help young children develop these empathy skills. And I'm sure Sue, the other Sue Newman's going to come over soon and take over from what I'm saying here and maybe give us some ideas about how we can do that as well. So I don't know whether you did think about when people do get these, young children do get these skills. So in some of the training that I do, I sometimes give people some options. Is it 2 years old? Is it 4 years old? Is it 8 years old? Or is it none of those above ages? And actually, like I said, you know, sometimes it's teenage years plus before the actual empathy skills come online properly. Obviously, they can learn little bits about it, but we do need to think about what is going on there for young children, I feel. So social and emotional development wise, in England, we use the early years foundation stage. We call it the EYFS. I know it's also used internationally, which is why I'm talking about it today as well. But in 2021, when this was revised, we got a new early learning goal that's all about self-regulation. So by the end of the reception year, which in England is about when children are 4 or 5 years old, it says that children should be able to have an understanding of their own feelings and those of others, and also begin to regulate their behaviour according to that. Well, those are tricky skills, because obviously you need to know what's going on in your body. You need to understand what those feelings are, which in young children can be huge feelings in that moment, in terms of that meltdown, wanting somebody else's snack, wanting the instrument that your friend's got next to you, whatever. They can be huge emotions in early years. So we need to obviously try to help children to understand that. But then to be able to understand what somebody else is feeling like is a whole new kettle of fish, really, isn't it? It's a whole new experience, a whole new set of skills. It talks about working towards simple goals and being able to control these immediate impulses. So that is a little bit like somebody was saying earlier about trying to get somebody else's snack or something like that. Being able to stop yourself from thinking your snack looks really great, looks much better than mine. Let me see if I can have a taste of yours. Really important skills there, aren't they? I think in terms of kind of bringing this back to bullying, we need to really think about the fact that when I was little, obviously I'm quite old compared to most of you online, but when I was little, there wasn't such thing as being online. There wasn't an online presence. Nobody had a mobile phone. So if you were bullied when you played out, or you were bullied at school. You weren't bullied necessarily at home unless there was abuse happening at home. So there was a safe haven, there was a safe bit around you in terms of, you know, you did feel safe at some stage. But now when everybody's got this tech in their pocket through phones and tablets and things like that, there's no escape actually from the online world of bullying if you are bullied. And going into some of the older children that might be using social media, some of the messages and some of the social media disappear after a while, and they might then feel braver to be able to say some unkind things online, because actually there's no permanent record of what's been said. But obviously people still see it. You can screen grab things, and obviously moving forward, that's that's obviously not a great place to be in if you are bullied online, because it's relentless 24/7 impact here as well. So I think there's a lot of things to discuss, and I'm really looking forward to everybody else's input on this as well. In the UK, we've got the Communications Act, which actually says that anybody's culpable for 10 years onwards, which is, you know, it's 10 years old. If you think about, obviously, as an adult, you're only really prosecuted and cast as an adult at 18 years old. But from 10 years old, people can be culpable for their online presence here in the UK. And we've also got a brand new Online Safety Act, which is progressively coming into force to try to keep everybody safer online, not just children, but everybody. So there's going to be some more rules about social media, maybe seeing which social media systems people are using, maybe verifying some age groups maybe for people using social media, and maybe just trying to keep all those things a little bit more regulated. So lots to think about, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what everybody else is going to be talking about as well.
All right, thank you so much, Asprit. Now, one of my friends, she messaged me on WhatsApp and she asked me, she's really actually curious to know how music plays an important role in building an empathetic society and, or let's say, the community. What's the part of group music? Newman, over to you.
Thank
And
you,
that's
Kate.
really, I feel it's therapeutic.
Thank you. Could I ask you to give me permission to share my screen? Sorry, I should have thought of that beforehand.
Yeah, sure, please.
Because I just have a few PowerPoint slides to show, because Boogie Nights music is informed by neuroscience evidence. So I'm going to refer to a couple of studies, and it's going to be helpful, I think, to have a visual aid when I talk about them. So before we think about the neuroscience evidence, if you just think from lived experience, I'm sure everybody here, we will have had different musical experiences and interactions in our life. However, we'll all be quite aware that music is very much a social bonding activity. You know, whether you're part of, excuse me, whether you're part of a church or a sporting team, you know, sporting team, or going to weddings, parties, we all know that music, when we're dancing, singing together, maybe clapping together, it is a bonding experience. It gives you a high, it makes you feel happy, and you feel very much part of that community that you're singing with. There is actually an activation that goes on in the brain that explains why that happens. If you think from a baby being born, we know from the neuroscience evidence that a mum bouncing baby on knee or singing, their heartbeat is aligning, their body temperature is aligning. There is synchronization caused through what's going on in the brain because of that rhythmic action and the sound impact on the brain. So it's very interesting then to think how that translates when you get to children group activities where there's music involved and they're clapping together or dancing together. They are synchronizing, and that's something which is a really important thing to hold on to. And there's two really important aspects that music making can activate in our development. It's sound processing and rhythmic awareness. So the sound waves will turn into brain waves when they come through our sound processing system. They go throughout the brain, they impact every part of the brain. They have a very strong connection with the motor cortices of the brain, which is the skill for rhythmic awareness, and together that impacts global development. So I'm going to share the screen and just talk about a couple of research studies. I've still got, I can't share at the moment. Are you able to give me permission, Sukaina?
Yeah, sure. Access given. Please go ahead.
I'll try again. Nope, I don't seem to have it.
I think somebody, whoever's
I've given you
admin in the
the
group,
access.
needs to actually physically allow that at the bottom of the screen. I don't know who's the admin.
Let me try it again. Hold on.
Okay, I mean, I
Can you
can
share it once again?
let me talk about the 6 sort of neural networks in the brain that are impacted. So you've got 3 cortices in the brain: the auditory, the visual, and the motor cortices. And of those main cortices, there are many, many neural networks. The 2 really important neural networks that we're going to think about that are activated through music are the reward network and the emotional network. Am I able to share now? No, never mind. I'm going to have to work without. So
Have any sharing option.
yeah,
The sharing option is.
it says disabled. Not to worry, I shall try and work without. So that basically there's research studies that I wanted to refer to, but if I send them to you, you can share them with the recording, so people can look them up if they're interested. So there's some interesting research studies that show how bonding and synchronization occurs when children are dancing together, clapping, tapping rhythm sticks, and also how even 4-year-olds, this study was done with 4-year-olds, and it shows how they are promoting their pro-social behavior through music activities together and encouraging empathetic behavior. suggesting that group music sessions are a great way for children to work more cooperatively together. So when we think about pro-social behaviour, we're thinking about kindness, empathy and agency. And studies have shown that even at age 14 months, babies or toddlers are able to experience and show empathy. There's a study that's been done where a baby bouncing on mum's knee, so there's two groups. There's the groups that are being bounced on the beat, so a nice synchronized beat, and then off the beat. And then there's an experience that they have where those same babies are asked to pick an item up which is dropped by the experimenter, and they're able to say that there's a significant difference between the babies that have been bounced on the beat and those that haven't. So they're able to make that connection between the synchronization supporting the development of empathy for those children at just 14 months old, which is really quite incredible. So they're able to say that rhythmic synchrony has led to interpersonal synchrony. So that rhythm synchrony between a group can then become synchrony for those people working together and feeling part of a team. And in our music groups, we often talking about teamwork. We are a team, you know, when we're clearing up the instruments and putting them away, or whether we're trying to work together, work with the beat together. It's teamwork. We're making a good sound together if we all work together. And it's quite a powerful tool for tuning the children in. There's one other study that I wanted to reference because I think it's particularly relevant to today's topic, where it says that a University of Valencia study said that a neural basis of empathy, studying brain structures, were able to conclude that the brain circuits responsible for empathy are in part the same as those involved with violence. So in fact, by encouraging empathy, we have an inhibiting effect on violence. So it's not just a social question, but also a biological one. Stimulation of the neuronal circuits in one direction reduces their activity in another. So that makes what we're doing with children and encouraging empathy so much more important for when they grow older, and they're less likely, because they haven't got those brain connections that are more likely to make them bully or violent in any way. So I really find that's an amazing study. And as I say, I will share those studies for anyone that's interested to read up a little bit more about it. But in our experience of Boogie Mics music workshops, we have a group that at the beginning of the session, when we're just working with the children, as I say, you know, you start to see their personalities and who's going to be the most confident, or even those that are a bit pushy. And certainly there is no way that I can do one of our songs, which is called Beanbag Hello, which is about taking turns, passing the beanbag, having your go and moving it on. And by the end of the 6 weeks, this can be an activity that the group will, without anyone having a meltdown, quite happily take part in. We sing beanbag hello, beanbag hello, let's have a go at beanbag hello. If you have the beanbag, it's your turn. Tell us your name and pass the bag along. And so they'll say their name, and by the end of the 6 weeks, they'll be confident to do that, and then they'll pass it on. And they're excited to wait. I mean, if I try this with a new group, there'll be someone that wants to snatch it, doesn't want to wait their turn. But by the time they've been keeping the beat together, dancing together, playing instruments together for, I would say, 6 weeks is a good period of time, then this activity will work almost every time without failure. And they are really waiting their turn, and they are taking delight and feeling reward from actually being part of this group game where everybody has their turn, and then we have a big clap at the end because everyone's delighted that you know, we've and it can be a 10-minute activity. It depends how many children you've got in the group. It can be a very long activity. So I think that's a really you know, wonderful example of changing behavior, changing brains through musical interaction in quite a short period of time. And I often relate it to adult life. You'll have to let me know when my time's up because I haven't been watching the time. But I'm part of a choir, which is a group of ladies who could not do enough for each other. You know, if anyone has any problem, everybody wants to help them. There's absolutely no bitching, there's no nastiness on there. And then on the other side, my husband is a member of a tennis club. His WhatsApp group is full of nasty little snitchy comments about each other. And I think that's the competitive nature of a sport where you're just one person. I mean, this is just a little anecdotal example that makes me always feel, yeah, you know, music is so powerful to bring people together. And I actually wasn't a football fan when I was growing up, because obviously musical experiences in our childhood are imprinted on our brain and we take them forward in our life, so that the things that we did a lot of when we were young are very socially make you feel happy and rewarded, because the neural networks are already there to recognize them and feel comfort and part of that community. So football wasn't a community I was part of when I met my husband. So when I first used to go, you know, this sound, this noise, it didn't mean anything to me. Now, if I'm walking up to the stadium, the singing, the chanting, the stamping, the clapping, my hairs are on end, I'm part of this community, we're all in it together, we're singing for the whole match. And it's just a really good example to me of what I am doing in my my teaching life, for bringing children and groups and families together. And there's an organisation called Music Without Borders, which you may have heard of, and they take this this whole idea by going to war-torn areas of the world and bringing people together to make music based on the neuroscience that shows us it is a really, really powerful tool that we have to create communities, diverse communities, bring them together, help them to bond and feel empathy for each other. So I think that's everything I was going to say. Sorry, I couldn't share my slides. I should have checked it before.
But I'm sure the conversation was heavy enough to be digested. It was perfectly all right. I thought that it's better that you were talking to us, that we can feel that connection.
Sure.
That was blessing in disguise, right? Now, Janvi, over to you. I mean, considering your expertise, I personally think that the childhood trauma stays for you throughout your life. So what do you think how bullying impact on one's mental health and well-being? How it works? Do you think it leaves a long-lasting impact in the adulthood, or let's say the maturity? Your views, please.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you, Suken, for the question. So, yeah, I feel there are different ways. So I would try to put this in a way, stating how bullying affects one's mental health, and what can we do, like as school, the management, and being we as educators can help not only the one who gets bullied, but for the mental health and well-being of the entire student. So I'll talk about 2-3 cases. Which will, I believe, provide a better insight, or able to elaboration of the particular question that was put forward. So I've met 2-3 students who have had bullying in the past. So, but there were different repercussions or consequences or other behavioral effects, I would say, after that. So, in one or two, after being bullied, they were, the trauma that they had. So they were they became totally silent. So what we call the pre-morbid personality that they had prior. So that particular personality or behavior changed. They became entirely silent, not talking to being introvert, not talking, not being expressive, even with the family members. So the parents while having a conversation with me, they mentioned that at home also, even though at times we tend to feel a question that whether the home environment is okay or not for them. So on questioning and gaining the information that no, the home environment was totally okay, and the parents were being supportive and tried to understand what was going on, and they wanted him to the particular student to express, to talk with them. But the other, the opposite happened, that the student became silent and not even wanted to. At times we also see where they miss school, they don't want to come to school, they want to change the school, and they stop eating, they stop doing the things that they wanted to do or they like doing. Whereas on the other hand, the other side of the trauma that we say, or the the effects of being bullied, it turns it in a very aggressive way. like we say, no, there is a point or there's a threshold till when we can, bear that particular thing when it's happening to us constantly, and when we are not able to, stand for ourselves, when we're not able to defend it, when we're not able to take it more. So in turn, in order to, stand for oneself and, defend one's mental health or one's emotions emotionally, they become very violent. So I have had one cases where the student was new, so the particular student enrolled in our school. So there, it was noted that he carried, very violent items put in his socks. So it was like pen refill and some kind of a ruler and scissors and, cutters. He tried to keep it and hide it in his socks. So on us and on checking that, why do, definitely it seemed like, as if he is provoking, he's being provoked, or, he's showing some aggressive behavior, trying to harm, into violence and everything. But on coming for counseling and, talking to him after having conversations, it was found that, in a way of protecting himself from the peers, from those who were bullying, or, trying to overpower him in the school or inside the classroom environment. So in order to safeguard, or protect him, so he, carried all these items. So yeah, we can see that the trauma that, it creates, emotionally wise, it can be seen, both the sides. Somebody, like we said, we discussed that one who bullies, in the initial stages, or somewhere or the other, that particular student or children was or might have been bullied before. So and obviously they tend to show this, the violent behavior. So what we can do is, like, I have tried to come up with this particular thing in school, like having a peer support group, because we have seen that there is nobody to listen. So everybody, keeps on talking, keeps on having conversations, trying to be included in one particular group, trying to, like we said, the social conformity, trying to be accepted in one particular group. We don't voice out. The students don't voice out. So even we also do in our, our day-to-day life, but the students, for them being teenagers, like we say, the belongingness need is so much that they don't voice out what they want, even though it is something not, relatable, or something that might not keep up with his or her peers. So the peer support group, I've tried to bring this up, so that there will be certain peers, they're the chosen ones, which we say. So those will, be a listening ear. So there will be somebody for them to listen, because at times they might not want to share it with the teachers, share it with me also, whatsoever. So they would want somebody of their age, so that they can listen or share, just listen and nothing else. And, like, Sue Newman and Smith were talking about empathy. So build that empathy, and I feel that early childhood, in the early years of, development for children, I think the empathy will come from parents being the first, guide, when they start communicating about emotions. So how they feel, about what is angry, what is happiness. So it's not just about learning the emojis. I feel that, happiness is just a smiling face, and angry is just the upset face, and, the red face. So I believe that discussing, like a very, like a child. So the parents need to go to that level of their child, and then discuss, communicate about the emotions. Like, if I feel bad, then I need to communicate that you did this, and I felt this so and so, so that they understand the emotion, they build the empathy, and they can feel the compassion. After, once we understand what empathy is, or be empathetic towards others, I feel then the compassion comes, that I want to do something for the other person. So I think when we start building empathy, or empathetic, we start raising empathetic kids, then I think the compassion will automatically come, the need or the want to do something for others. So yeah, I think the mental effect, like, Suken asked about the mental effects of the bullying, how, how is that. So yeah, there are two sides of the coin, and both the sides are very much, very much concerning. So we need to keep an eye open. So it's nothing like that somebody is aggressive or violent. Doesn't mean that, okay, that he's like, the background is okay and, he's just a spoiled brat or something. But yeah, both the sides of the coin we need to see. And yeah, this is how we can build an, empathetic and well-being environment we can create for the both parents and educators. So yeah, thank you so much.
All right. There's one question from you, and I feel it's really important. The question is, what words should adults use to demonstrate that, demonstrate empathy for children? Do we have some terms or phrases which can be used by adults to like soothe down or calm down or show that we are empathetic towards children? I mean, you are the person, I would say, the rightly directing children or adults towards empathy. How? Can we use some phrases or verses?
Yeah, so there I have not myself, come across or used or read about any particular terms, in order to inculcate this empathy.
Let's
But
suppose,
while
sorry
while
to
the
interrupt. Janvi, sorry for interrupt. Suppose you're a teacher or I'm a mother or I'm asking you, is there any specific word to soothe or calm down the nerves of the child who's being bullied, right? How to show what should be my gesture to show that I'm empathic towards it? Because once they've been like wounded, it's difficult for them to build the trust. So how we are going to do that? I mean, in short.
Yeah, so if I have to say the parents, like, communication, like I said, so when we notice that, okay, the child is not responding or expressing, the parent is aware that, okay, something is wrong in school. So I think instead of questioning too much, the parent can give them time to settle down, like not too much, involved in his or her, whatever the behavior is showing. And once we have, the parents have understood, they can sit with the child and just normally ask if, how was your day, or what are the things. This is not only when, when we notice that we notice that somebody is being bullied, only we should ask. We educators, like we said, there's a term called socio-emotional learning. So educators need to inculcate this in their traditional methods of teaching, and parents also need to build this, because the socio-emotional learning is not only not only concerning or restrained to only when bullying occurs. So this is how parenting should be. If we talk about concerning issues like bullying or addiction or anything else, so basic communication, basic everyday communication, even though you want to share some moments of silence with your child, it can be some moments of, so like words only doesn't mean anything. If you're sitting with the child for 5-10 minutes in silence, that only shows the compassion or the comfort level, so that the child can build trust. And then slowly you give him the opportunity so that he or she can gain the trust and comfort, and then share by himself or herself. So I believe that the, like we say, non-verbal gestures. So yeah, we can show our non-verbal gestures, and then they can be comfortable with us and share. Because at initially only, at first only, if we try to question, okay, what happened, what, tell me this, tell me that, then it will be too much for the child. So giving them the time and space, we need to go ahead. So yeah, I hope I could answer your question.
Oh, that was I mean, that was what I needed, and I'm really happy that audience are taking interest in the questions and the topic, really, because as I said, it's close to everyone's heart. At some stage of our life, we have been through this. So now, Darcel, since we are talking about school, children, and education, so what do you think? Is there any specific roles and responsibilities comes to our teachers? As teachers, it comes to us, like how we can prevent and address the bullying, especially at the school environments?
Yeah, I
What
just
are
want to
roles-
quickly touch on, yeah, sorry. I just want to touch on quickly what everyone said was just amazing. And, just related to the question now, like what specific roles and responsibilities do teachers play in preventing and addressing bullying? Well, teachers play a vital role. We're actually carrying so many responsibilities. Teachers, we're acting as a parent, we're acting as a nurse, a psychologist, everything. So, as teachers, we have the vital role in preventing and addressing bullying in school environments by emphasizing respect, independence, and just bringing a sense of community together. So really the big focus should be on what I call the 3 R's of bullying prevention. So the first R is establishing rules. So educators will demonstrate They will not tolerate a student harming another student physically, psychologically, verbally. The second prevention is rights, that every student has a right to not be hurt by others and to feel safe in that school environment. So, you know, for a child to come to school, it has to be a safe haven. You know, we will notice immediately when parents start commenting that the children they feel reluctant to go to school, they have anxiety around it. So every child has that right. And then the third R of bullying prevention is responsibility. So students will respect the rights of their classmates and themselves and report any incidents of bullying immediately. And educators need to teach the strategies for dealing and reporting with bullies, because, you know, you get three types of people involved in bullying. You have the bully who does the action, you have the victim, and you have those who watch the bully doing the action. And for those, I feel they also carry a bigger purpose in the role of bullying, because they need to be able to report this when they see it and act on it and make the teachers or those in the school environment aware of what's occurring. Just moving on to what other roles and responsibilities teachers have is teachers need to build a sense of community. The main reasons for students being bullied is normally about their physical appearance, their race, ethnicity, gender, disability, and religion. And I know that I've had this, particularly growing up in British schools. You know, my background, I grew up in South Africa, so we've had apartheid, and coming from a mixed race background, I was bullied being mixed race. And I understand the feelings around that, and it hurts. You internalize it that you've already left the country, that it was such a dominant thing. So, you know, I feel teachers need to build that sense where they just strengthen the sense of belonging for students to be in that community. And there needs to be more discussion about the diversity of people they encounter in different social groups. So it could be in classrooms. Sorry, somebody's mic is on. If we could mute that, please. I don't know. I just hear my voice echoing. I don't know if, sorry. Moving on. So, you know, when you talk about the diversity of people that children encounter, it could be in sports clubs, faith communities, within their own families, there needs to be this idea of bringing community together. And like what both Sue Asquith and Sunuma was talking about empathy, we need to emphasize inclusion. So, you know, of course, there's going to be people speak different languages or have different talents and abilities, but the idea is having the empathy and the knowledge around that to bring everybody together and to provide these better opportunities. So that's a really big thing that teachers need to do within the classroom setting. And also for children to see value in others, because I feel that, you know, when children see value in others, it also creates an understanding of their own intrinsic value. Another point is teaching conflict resolution. So I feel like what happens in a school setting is that there's such a heavy emphasis on ticking the boxes in the academic approach that we're losing the empathy, the part of really getting children or teachers the time to focus on moral education. And, you know, with teachers having to teach conflict resolution, you're allowing children to negotiate and to resolve conflicts in a better way, just for promoting better language skills, being able to, you know, develop their social skills as well. So, you know, I know that through my being a Montessori guide, it's a very heavy part, you know, that we emphasize children to solve their own problems and to negotiate and to promote a sense of responsibility in one's actions. So in a Montessori setting, you actually have a table that is dedicated to students resolving conflict. So on the table, we've got actually a peace table. You have a white flower, and when you have two people come together and they're trying to resolve their conflict, the person holds the flower and they talk about why they feel upset, or in that moment about, you know, what the other person did to them. And then they pass the flower over and that person gets a turn to talk about how they felt in that conflict that they had, perhaps in the playground or within the classroom. And I think it's a really beautiful thing to have a peace table, because the teacher will lead the conversation, but after a while, children will naturally gravitate to that table, learning how to resolve their own issues by simply expressing themselves and talking more about their emotions. And again, what both Sue Newman was talking about is just and Sue Asquith is about active listening. Learn how to be active listeners. Teach children to be active listeners. And that comes from the teacher also taking a real intrigue and getting to know their students on a better level. So if you see your students, ask them, how was your weekend? How was your day? Just getting to know them, because when you as a teacher become that role model, you are encouraging other students to pass that on and to give that sense that students are worthy and are valued. And I think that's what's missing nowadays, especially with a lot of social media, is that students don't feel valued and they compare themselves to everyone else. But actually, we're all individual and we're all so beautiful. And that's what I think needs to be promoted more within the classroom settings. And then again, as I was mentioning about developing the social skills, children need to include others, and teachers need to have this idea of letting children feel valued, as I was mentioning. Furthermore, just teach children how to stand up for themselves. Give them the power of self-assertion. Help them understand that their opinions hold value. Give them the tools and the languages to stand up for themselves and use phrases like, stop that, don't touch me, leave me alone, like this sort of language. Bullies don't expect to be challenged. And so when you allow the child to confidently assert themselves in a situation like that, you're actually disarming the bully and you're calling attention to the intimidating acts that adults nearby can also witness and kind of intervene as well. So, that's how I feel that those are the most important things that teachers should be really focusing in the classroom, and staying connected with parents as well, observing their social progress, speaking to parents, what's going on at home, understanding everything that's happening, and just observing and being part of that environment. So I think I've gone over my time, but that's what I feel teachers should contribute.
Thank you so much, Darcel. It was really, really amazing, because especially the table where you are talking about the white flowers and the active listening, unfortunately, we miss it here. But there's a question for you in our live session in the chat box. You can go over there in the comment and write down the answers, because the audience have few questions, and I would like you to entertain it over there on the live session, okay, in the comment
Absolutely.
box. Our fifth speaker, Shabista Bakhtiar. How can schools effectively implement anti-bullying policies that can cultivate a culture that's towards empathy and, let's say, like resilience, let's say? School can implement such policies, which should go against for that?
Well, first of all, they should have professional counselors, psychologists on board. Every school should have it now. We don't have it here. I'm just telling my friends, those who are working abroad in Dubai and all, we don't have. Many schools don't even cater to such needs. And the second thing is that I really, really emphasize on one thing, that the teachers should be trained. If you need to make a peace table, a teacher should know how to resolve a conflict. That is very important. They themselves don't know what to do. Conversations happening there in the classroom with the teacher. I personally found when we used to have those circle time in the beginning of the day, it was the best time to inculcate any kind of emotional intelligence, communication, words, phrases to children that they can use and that they can understand also. There are many, now we have a lot of what's that called, material also online, and even physical material present, that these things should be used. But as far as schools are concerned, schools first of all have to understand here specifically that what bullying is. There is a difference in all these things. If the children are having fun or just pulling each other's legs or actually bullying, again they need to have professionals on board. So Karna, you go and do sessions in schools, and we have been doing it together also, that we have customized programs for schools, that they should where we go and then tell, first of all, what is bullying. The person who's bullied, they even doesn't know he or she, the child, is being bullied. The person who is bullying doesn't know that he or she is bullying. So these things, first we need to communicate these things also. And again, these sessions, these workshops should help, and they do help. And again, even we have to notice one thing, that bullying is not happening in between children only. Teachers also bully. And there are a lot of cases we witness on daily basis on news, specifically schools which are in the rural areas or in small cities here in Pakistan. And we witness that a lot of hitting goes on, a lot of bad mouthing, I should say, I don't know, abuse, verbal abuse goes on, physical abuse goes on. So we need to have actually understand that what areas are covered in this topic, and what needs to be prevented. There should be, okay, you need to discipline a child, whatever you can say, that something else, that disciplining or making a calm classroom, but these things won't help unless you won't understand the boundaries of the child and of the teacher also. And again, see, raising a child is, where there was a saying, raising a child is a job of a whole village, not of a parent or a teacher only or anyone. We all need to work together. The components are parents, teachers, school administrations, and then there comes the child also. And we all need to work together, so, and create policies. And I think it's high time that our education ministries should start working on that, which ain't happening. And such kind of policies should be there. Still, corporal punishment is not a big deal in many parts here. It is banned in schools, big schools, elite schools, you can say, in bigger cities, but you have no, I think, Sukana, you will have idea what happens in small schools and small cities. So it's actually, first of all, we need to actually work on this part of our body, first of all. It is very important. The mindset, changing the mindset, understanding that a child is a child. The child needs love, first of all, then care, then empathy, then sympathy, then other things, like then toys and games and online stuff. And and again, when we come back to the school part, I think that first of all, schools need to encourage to get their teachers trained. I am a big advocate of that, and I cannot emphasize it more, that our teachers need to get proper trainings, proper education themselves, so they are placed in with 20, 30 children and handle their lives actually. So I think that is the most important thing I would like to say there.
Yeah, I've been witnessing, listening to such stories, and children are coming to me, the parents are coming to me. So yes, being in Pakistan, I know how it happens. And one of the person has written that what happened to school, one of the elite school, the teacher called that I don't know what kinds of, he said that, how do you give feedback to teachers who bully? Recently, a teacher said, animals like you should be kept in the zoo.
Yes.
Simply to a noisy mass.
Yes, and
So,
I
and
know this case. Yes, I know this case, and this is not the only one. Teachers use all kinds of things. Even when I was a child, I was told that you cannot be educated ever because your mother is not educated. So these things, we were like, and we were the generation, we even didn't know what bullying is. We were like lost. Okay, the teacher has said, it must be true. That was our mindset actually. And it's
Asia, we know
really
that being Asian, you agree with me. I would, if I talk like, somehow we know we have the same scenarios, or let's say the mindsets. So it happens, and we are facing this thing.
Yes, true. And Darcel was talking about being a mixed race, we being of the same race, of the same area, but just because we used to speak a different regional language, we were bullied on that also. So it's, and see, I'm a middle-aged woman talking about that right now. So these scars don't go away ever. And again, this needs to be treated very professionally, very professionally. And again, schools and teachers, they need to get themselves educated first. It is very important. I can't stress on it more. Please do that.
They are lucky, especially I'm talking about Asquith and Newman, they are lucky to have proper developed country. That
Yes.
while sitting here in Pakistan and talking, it's not easy. We are daily witnessing, hearing, going through, and recalling our past traumas. So that makes me quite emotional. Thank you, Shabista.
Earlier, just one little thing. I have time?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
I'm done.
sure. No, you can.
I was earlier. I was at another panel discussion happening by a group of schools over here. There, a teacher asked question about conflict resolution. She was like, "I didn't know how to handle it, but my coordinator did, and she handled the child, and the conflict resolved, or the child was helped." And then she asked the question, how can I do? She knew, so she did it. What can I do on it? And then again, I told her that, listen, we have done it. We used to work and then get ourselves educated and then take care of the house also, and raise child also. So why can't you? Why is teaching always taken as a hobby over here? Why, if a woman has nothing to do, starts teaching? And Manika, you have to understand these things, that it is also a profession. It should be treated as a profession now. It shouldn't be a hobby. So it's that is why the issues are unresolved, and I don't know, even misunderstood over here. That's it.
Okay, Uma. I think you are doing the great part by being an active listener. So you are actually showing us the topic. So now comes your part when we talk about the wounds and scars. So how you are going to aid and share some strategies which can work as an aid to the children, those who have been in trauma or being bullied, right? And I mean, those experiences is like huge thing for their young and little minds. How we are going to work? Just quickly share a few strategies. I'm sure you have a lot. Really?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And see, it was very good listening to every panelist here. It's lovely. I mean, they have already given the strategies, wonderful strategies. When it comes to Dazzle, she told the peace table, and it's taken directly to the Asquith thing, that empathy. Everything revolves under empathy, right? So when we have to address bullying among the children age 3 to 8, because that is my level of what to say, experience, what I can say is, as Bhaktiya said, it's a combination of support from parents, educators, and caregivers. Okay, we three are involved, everyone are involved, whoever is related to the child. And then if I have to talk about some effective strategies, first and the foremost is the open communication. Okay, you need to encourage open communication with the child. Create a safe and non-judgmental space for them to share their feelings. And this is very, very important. Don't judge the child. Be good ears, be good listeners. I think Darsal, she told all the strategies. Okay, so you need to be very good listener to the child. When they say something, don't just just show it away. And then you need to teach them how to talk. You need to be their voice. Teach them assertiveness. That is very, very important. And how to assertively communicate their feelings and needs. And how we are going to do this with 3 to 8 years old, it's through role playing. You can't teach them this is this. They won't understand. You need to role play it. Give them scenarios, similar scenarios. Take a soft toy, say a soft doll, and then do something which the child has gone through in the class. Okay, snatching something away from the doll and then saying, okay, so now we are not involving this toy in our play. Okay, we are keeping the toy away. Oh no, what might be the toy thing, what might be the teddy thinking about that? So he's alone right now, we are not involving him in the play, we are playing alone. So all these things, I think those scenarios, when you give them those scenarios and then role play, it works out better. And then you have to promote self esteem, which is very very important for them. You need to reinforce that positive self talk and affirmations, and this will help the child focus on their strength and unique qualities, and this is very very important. Be their voice. And then you have to develop the friendship skills also. Involve more of collaborative games wherein uh, another thing is also there, wherein you're giving them a buddy, okay, which becomes the voice of this bullied child. We don't know if the child has been really bullied, but then you need to implement the buddy system wherein you're pairing the bullied child with a supportive buddy who can provide companionship and assistance. Okay, so when it comes to this particular age, it's not like what you say, uh, something bad has happened, very which should not have happened. It might just be, snatching away something, the toy, or okay, he snatched away my toy and I'm not able to play with that. So it will be very small things for us, but for the child it is very big. Okay, so where these bullied support, okay, the buddy support will give them uh, what to say, it's a great support for them. What is very small for us, it's a great support for them. And then as everyone said, the problem solving thing, the critical thinking, the problem solving skills need to be built at this age. We need to help the child develop the problem solving skills to handle the conflicts effectively. Okay, and as she told, if something happens, tell them to voice out and say that, okay, this is mine, you're not supposed to do that, and you're showing a very weird behavior which is not accepted, I don't like it. And then if you think it is really extreme, then you have to go for a professional support, a professional consultant, okay, counselor, or a psychologist or therapist. You can always take their support, wherein they specialize in that. We as educators, we share from our point of view. I mean, with our experience, we can give them minimal support. But then when you think that it's extreme, and then the child is going to depression, or the child has become very low, then you need to always approach the specialists, the professionals who can guide them. And then last, but you need to monitor and intervene them always. Keep monitoring. Okay, now the child, now you have done all these things, but still the child is, then you can actively talk to the parents, and you need to create like what exactly will help my child, what exactly will be helping the child. And then you need to intervene always. And I think bullying behavior will stop if you do all these things at the early years. Of course, as everyone said, it's at this particular age, it's not like they're completely bullying, it's just the aggression that has been shown. But then if you talk and if you try to stop it at this particular level, I think you can stop it, which goes beyond in as they grow up. But then every child is unique, and then it might take some time for them to overcome all this impact of bullying. So consistently, if you keep working on all these things, and if you support them, understand, and then if you collaborate, and then if you involve a lot of collaborative activities in early years education instead of individual learning, if you have the peer learning setup kind of a thing, So they know how to play with others, and that empathy will be built within them. So I think all these things are very crucial to help bullied children rebuild their confidence. So this is what I feel.
Thank you so much, Uma. And I would request our audience, because I can see there are many teachers and many educators around the world who are watching us. So my only question is that please, if you know more tips, come back to us and write it down in our live chat session, so we can also benefit, we can also share. And if you have any queries, just write it down. Those who are going to watch it later, please write down your queries, and our speakers are going to come back to you and cater it as they're like whenever it's possible. And I would just say that let's continue our efforts to create a safe and inclusive environment, a diverse environment where we can have let's say a safe generation, a safe society. And especially I would say, because being in Pakistan, my concern is that to have a bully-free zone. I know it's not so easy, but let's work together. And I'm sure we will have more sessions like this where we all can communicate with each other and come up with more ideas, more strategies to implement in our school systems and, let's say, the workplaces as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for today. All of our speakers, and I can say the Asquith is gone because we are running short of time. I know I've taken more time, but I think it was worth taking. Thank you, Newman. Thank you, Shabista. Thank you, Janvi, Darcel, and Uma. And thank you so much, Asquith, for you. I know you're not being here, but you're going to reply me. Thank you so much for being with us. Take care. Have a nice weekend.